Story 1. Addict in recovery. I cannot say I will never use drugs again. I can confidently say I will never use them successfully again. Story 2. Getting back with someone who shattered my self-esteem. We broke up for a reason, and I ignored every warning sign just because I missed the comfort of the familiar. I thought time had changed us both, but really, I was just more willing to accept less than I deserved. The second time hurt more than the first. Never again. Missing someone is not a reason to return to what broke you. Story 3. Eat sea cucumber. I was in China on a business trip and was treated to dinner at a nice place. Apparently, sea cucumber is considered a delicacy and is supposed to increase male virility when consumed. I took a bite and immediately had to drink my beer because it was the most disgusting thing I have ever eaten. It had the consistency of celery that had gone bad, in other words, mushy but also stringy. The taste was very unpleasant. I tried to keep it down but ended up excusing myself to the restroom, where I promptly threw up. Story 4. Talk to the man I still have a crush on. He stopped talking to me more than 2.5 years ago, but even though I regained my joy, my feelings for him never went away. To be honest, I was hoping he might text me out of nowhere one day. But he will not because he died 2 months ago. I got the news last Saturday. He was only 54. It hurts. Story 5. I force myself to have sex so as not to offend or frustrate my partner. I do not insist when I say no and he replies to wait a little longer. Never again. Story 6. Most likely crack. I tried it just a toke when I was 18, now 49. I instantly knew at the time it was very Moorish and saw others totally destroy their lives around me, so that was it. I believe I made a good life choice back then. Story 7. Verbal agreements. I bought a car, but we put it in my father's name. My brother was allowed to use it while I was away at school. When I came back asking about the car, my father said my brother was still using it. My brother was living 5 hours away in a different state, so I did not get the car back for 2 years. Story 8. Get pregnant or have a baby. Pregnancy was horrible for me, and postpartum was even worse. There is barely any support for mothers out there, and although my son is almost 2 years old, I will never be the same as I was before pregnancy. Story 9. Get on a skateboard. I got sober at 33. To celebrate, I had the bright idea of getting back into skating, which I had not done since I was 16. 10 minutes in, I took a nasty fall, broke my femur in 4 places, and tore the meniscus. I will stick to age-appropriate hobbies. I have stayed sober, though, almost 6 years now. Story 10. Change careers. It was expensive and time-consuming, and at my age, I do not care what those people on TikTok or Instagram say. It is too late. I am in this one until they let me leave. Story 11. Cheating on a partner was the worst, most soul-crushing thing I have ever done. I have not done it since and refuse to forgive myself for it. Story 12. Snort the contents of a Pixie Stix. Did it on a dare for $20 in 8th grade. Haven't done it again since. Story 13. Being young really frustrates me because I don't feel old until I try to get my rickety self in gear and do something more strenuous than dressing myself. Story 14. Pointed out to some people on Reddit that other points of view are valid too and got insulted for it. Not talking about objectively terrible points of view like racist ones. There are too many judgmental people. I have to protect my peace, unfortunately, because I love speaking my mind. Story 15. Talk to my mother. She is a narcissistic, manipulative, horrible person, and my life is much better without her trying to cause chaos. Story 16. Spray deodorant all over the body, including directly on the genital area. Felt like I was in the fiery pits of hell. Story 17. Cannabis edibles were served at an event, but the signs indicating the milligram value and that they were infused were not displayed until after I already had a full plate of them. Story 18. When I was in school, my teacher asked, "Would you jump off a bridge if your best friend did it?" Not again was always my response. Story 19. Moved to Texas. I lived there for a few years, and I do not hate or despise the state. I just know I prefer being in my home state and see a future here. Story 20. I do not communicate with my wife. I close myself off and do not express how I am feeling, not just with her, but with anyone in life. What is the point of the stress caused by doubts that may not be necessary? If something negative is said in these conversations, at least it is out in the open and you are not left wondering. Story 21. Keep things from my boyfriend, for example, trauma, comes out especially when I am drunk, and I tend to wander to clear my head. He gets worried when I do not tell him and just leave without a word. We talked, and I made a pact that I will tell him whenever I am feeling depressed or off instead of causing issues. Story 22. Hang out with people with far-leaning political views, and I don't mean just one side. If you are an extremely far left or extremely far right person, I ask you politely to go away. I don't want to hear your extreme political views. I just want to hang out and talk about games and books. Story 23. Well, I could say a bunch of things, but several are honestly unrealistic. I will try not to get into another toxic relationship, at least. Story 24. Something I am a bit ashamed to say, but would highly suggest younger people consider as advice: have sex with a stranger. Can be unpleasant. Story 25. I will never work in a doctor's office again. Arrogant doctors, mismanaged scheduling, poor office managers, and lack of compassion. They care very little for their patients and employees. Some may disagree and say they work for excellent practices. Yes, there are a few. However, the ones I have worked for are the worst. Story 26. I went in a helicopter about 25 years ago when I visited Hawaii on an island tour. There were 6 of us in it, and as soon as it took off, I wanted to be sick. I couldn't look out and had to close my eyes the entire time. It was the worst experience ever. Story 27. Slalom skiing. I miss it, but I know I would hurt myself. I am 74 and it has been a very long time. It was awesome, but life goes on. Story 28. Eat calamari. It was just sitting there in a bowl like all the other buffet food. I thought it was those round pasta things with cheese inside, tortellini. Wow, was I wrong. I will never forget that slippery, rubbery feeling as I bit into it. Story 29. Cocaine is terrible, expensive, the high is short, and the aftereffects are very unpleasant. It feels like being the coolest person in your own mind for 4 hours, then running headfirst into a wall. 0 out of 10, hard pass. Story 30. Ride a horse. The last time I did, I got thrown off and I have had back problems ever since. It has made me dislike horses. Story 31. Work in the central corporate office for any large company. I am simply not compatible with the culture. Story 32. Tipping on anything but sit-down restaurants that provide good service only. Uber, Uber Eats, and any similar companies, no. I do not care. You knew what you were signing up for and what you were getting paid. Story 33. Go on a wooden roller coaster. I went on one at Ellich Gardens in Denver and felt like I got my butt kicked. It didn't help that it was kind of chilly, but my body got rocked. Ouch. Story 34. Have another baby. We have decided to stop at 3, knowing I am never going to be pregnant again. Having that first cuddle after giving birth hurts my heart. Story 35. So many things as I am disabled now. Even looking out the window at the sunshine makes me sad. Stuck in here forever. Story 36. Be toxic. I have been toxic in the past. I am learning to control my emotions, as well as the repressed thoughts and memories, to become a better human. Story 37. Woke up still drunk. Vomited on the bedroom floor. Boyfriend ghosted on the back porch. Purse on the sidewalk. Phone missing. Car in a different city. I had to use social media sleuthing to figure out what happened. I have not drank a drop in 15 years. I always said I was not an alcoholic, just really good at binge drinking. I was wrong. Do not underestimate alcohol. It has actually been 15 years, not 12. Wow, how time flies when you are having fun and can actually remember it. Story 38. Marry my ex-husband. I can cross my heart. Hope to die. Pinky swear. Promise on God and everything known to man. Story 39. Ride a freefall tower. I once rode Hansa Park's Highlander. When it opened, It was the highest freefall tower in the world at 120 meters total height and 103 meters falling height. It still is the highest freefall tower in Europe. My friends and I entered the ride, and up we went. First, everything was fine. We reached the top and the cabin turned for a moment, giving us an opportunity to enjoy the view and prepare for the fall. However, the fall never came. I have no idea how long we were up there. My best guess is 30 minutes, fear worsening with each breach. I remember looking at my friend, thinking, damn, she looks like a corpse. That's how pale she was. I probably didn't look much better. At some point, they brought the cabin down slowly. The system was broken. Back on the ground, I noticed a girl who was in the tower with us being comforted by her dad. She was having a panic attack. No, never again. My friends went back to ride it again later that day after the problem had been fixed. But since that incident, I have stayed away from any freefall tower. Story 40. Waiting too long to confront someone in the hope that their behavior will magically improve only leads to resentment and unhealthy relationships. Story 41. Allow negative people into my life. If you hold hatred for others, you will eventually turn on me. Negative people always turn on everyone. Story 42. Travel to India for work. I dislike going there. I work as an international recruiter based in the United States. Most of our business is conducted in India, so I am asked to travel there from time to time. For the first time in my life, I actually said no. I do not want to go back there again. Story 43. Cook a meal for my father-in-law. He dislikes most foods and speaks without a filter. Please avoid any unwarranted rude insults. I am a fairly skilled cook. Story 44. Date an alcoholic. To be fair, I did not know they were an alcoholic at the outset, but I should have seen the red flags and moved along. Story 45. Get hooked on alprazolam. When you run out and the doctor will not refill it, you may experience delusions, which is very scary. Story 46. Get married or live with someone. A long-term companion suits me better. I was married for 20 years. That is a good, solid run. However, I prefer not sharing my house. Come for dinner, stay the night, but then go home and wash your own socks. Story 47. Sailing. I took a class once. It was awful. What I thought would be a relaxing, enjoyable experience turned into an exhausting, stressful 2 days. Story 48. Lose a tooth. United States healthcare, which does not view teeth as a medical concern, led to about 20 years without dental insurance. I ended up getting a root canal done in the early 2000s, but the dentist never mentioned that the crown was temporary or that I needed a follow-up. By the time the temporary crown fell out, I was in that difficult area where my work did not offer coverage but paid enough that I could not get state insurance. After 10 years of abscesses, random tooth extractions with tax refunds, and a brush with death from overuse of acetaminophen, I got actual dental insurance. After a great deal of deliberation, I made the decision and had all my teeth removed and dentures put in. It is hard to be toothless and under 50, but at least I am not having rampant infection multiple times a year. Story 49. Get married. It is possible to fall in love. I doubt it, but it is possible. However, I will not get married again. I was married from 19 to 24 years old, and that was enough. Story 50. Apparently feeling like a normal functioning human and not a rabid raccoon that broke all its limbs getting hit by a semi. Story 51. Trust any of my exes, well except for one, the exception to the rule as it were. She has been married for decades now, and we parted on good terms as friends. The rest were unfaithful. Story 52. Go to a male review at a strip club. My car was hit multiple times by several women while parked. Drunk women drivers and strip clubs are a bad combination. I am a woman, and I am sure men are just as bad in the same scenario. In summary, no strip clubs. Story 53. Take 28 Benadryl. Wild ride. Best of my life, but I did not have fun trying to convince the doctors that I was not trying to commit suicide. But I got them to believe me, so no grippy socks for me. Story 54. I thought I would enjoy a boat, so we rented one to see. I love the water. It turns out it feels like a plastic tub, which is not my preference. I did enjoy the jet skis, though. I did not buy any because they are too loud for my area. However, they are definitely fun to rent. Story 55. I responded to police officers who visited my house a few years ago because a neighbor tried to cause trouble by falsely claiming that my dog had bitten a hole in her dress. They suggested putting a muzzle on my dog, and I replied firmly that I was not going to do that. Looking back, I was probably fortunate not to have been arrested for showing disrespectful behavior toward the police. Story 56. Worrying over things out of their control. At life's end, the most frequent regret is wishing they had enjoyed life more instead of overthinking every little thing. People report, "I wish I had let myself be happier," and lament the years spent anxiously fretting over what others think. Story 57. Get married. I don't care how lonely I get or how much I think I love them. I'm never putting another ring on someone else's finger. Biggest mistake I ever made. Really, I don't know if I'll ever be in a romantic relationship again. Not that I'm looking for one. Other people usually aren't worth trying to build a long-lasting relationship with. I can count the number of people other than family members that I get up from my chair to help on one hand, and I have fingers left over. Story 58. Get a DUI, everyone. Even if you feel fine, pay for a ride. I assure you that a $10 to $50 ride is cheaper not only immediately but also in the long term. Story 59. Hopefully, I don't take skateboarding seriously enough to try and learn new tricks. Props to the experienced skaters getting out there and tearing it up, but I hit a rock while riding, fell, and thought I broke or dislocated my shoulder. The entire time, while writhing in pain on the ground, I kept thinking, my wife is going to kill me. I gasped out to my toddler, who witnessed it. Don't tell your mother. I can't risk my wife having that ammunition in her back pocket anytime I want to go climbing. Story 60. Date someone who lies, is manipulative, or intentionally withholds the truth. I was so naive with zero self-respect and did not know what boundaries or healthy relationships were or what they looked like. But coming out of that experience forced me to fix the part of myself that attracted toxic relationships. Story 61. Someone asks for something. You assume it will be simple and quick, but it turns out to be a complex issue. I just got into this, and I think I have to say sorry. This is more than I want to take on and too risky for my taste. I may have wasted a couple of hours, but that is better than getting into a mess later. They may be upset with me, but I did not know the scope until we had a meeting. I do not like it. Story 62. Marriage. I was taken advantage of once, have 2 great kids, but unfortunately still have to deal with a cheating gambler who refuses to contribute anything substantial towards the kids' needs. Even though she earns nearly triple my income. After 4 years, I was finally able to date again and fell hard for someone who got scared by how fast things happened and essentially disappeared without explanation. Somehow, that hurt worse than the divorce. I am just done with it all. Story 63. Ignore my intuition just to keep someone else comfortable. Every time I did, it cost me peace I could not afford. Story 64. Re-roofing my own house made me feel like I aged 10 years. I have a newfound respect for people who do this every day. Story 65. Living above my means, which only lasted for 1 to 2 years luckily. Being debt-free is a huge burden lifted off your chest. Looking back, I wasted so much money on things I never needed or even wanted at times. Story 66. Be in my 20s. Peak physical condition. People, make the most of what you have. Do not waste or abuse your youth when everything is so easy. Get fit, stay fit, and set yourself up for a better life. Story 67. I went with my best friend and her ex-boyfriend in his truck. We were drunk and needed to go home from the bar that night. We did not realize he was also intoxicated. We swerved everywhere. I freaked out and punched him in the jaw. The truck ended up in a ditch. We took him out of the trunk and put him in the truck bed. I had to drive home on a back road. Thank God no police were around. I will never do it again as long as I live. I hope he doesn't either. To this day, he will never admit a woman knocked him out. Story 68. Fall in love. Get close to another person. Give birth to another person. Trust another person. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.